discussing this more. Now, these are obviously improper redactions.
And let me stop for a minute.
I'm talking.
If they're not privileged,
quiet.
Don't yell at me. If they're not
Mr. Chairman, would you stop the clock? This is on your time. It's not on Mr. Goldman.
If they're not
Even though
privileged,
you used your improper redactions,
you'll like my answer.
to
if we
continue
review
to
them and they're not
protect
privileged,
Donald
Time belongs to the
we will
member.
be happy to release them.
We'll
after
stop the
review.
clock. We'll stop.
Welcome back to Freedom Forge. If you believe in truth, accountability, and cutting through the noise, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe right now, because what we're about to break down today is something the mainstream media doesn't want you fully paying attention to. Today, we're reacting to a Senate hearing centered around the Department of Justice, the handling of Jeffrey Epstein-related documents, and serious allegations about transparency, redactions, and how victims have been treated. Now, on the surface, this hearing is supposed to be about uncovering the truth, about releasing documents, exposing wrongdoing, and giving justice to victims. But as we dig deeper, what you actually see is something very different. You see political theater, selective outrage, and a system that looks more interested in controlling narratives than delivering real accountability.
New York's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Bondi, I went over to the department yesterday for a couple of hours to review some of the unredacted materials. And I am looking forward to your detailed explanation for why you have withheld almost half of the documents, which is required by the bill. Now, obviously, there are 3 million documents, so I didn't get through much. But one thing I didn't see was the client list that you said you had on your desk a year ago. I did, however, find a couple of important documents. An 86-page prosecution memo from the Southern District of New York, and a draft indictment from Florida against Jeffrey Epstein's co-conspirators. For reasons that I cannot understand nor are permitted by the bill, they were still redacted, even for members of Congress. So, Ms. Bondi, will you commit right here to immediately providing those 2 documents in unredacted form to members of Congress? Not a complicated question.
Well, I guess it is for you because you have a law degree and those are privileged.
Okay, they're not privileged, but we will discuss that later. I also found an email that I have right here from Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell that was unredacted, and it included notes of statements that Donald Trump made about his prior relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, there is no reason for this to be hidden from the American people. There is no privilege, there is no attorney-client privilege, and I see you're checking with your staff, and I can assure you, staff, this is not under attorney-client privilege because it was sent from Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell. Will you commit to publicly providing the unredacted version of this so that the American people can understand the extent of Donald Trump's lies about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein?
You're about as good of a lawyer today as you were when you tried to impeach President Trump in 2016. Have you apologized for that in 2019?
So will you unredact this? Will you
were
unredact
lead
this?
counsel on that. Privileged.
I'm asking you, will you unredact this?
Privileged.
Privileged, of course. I look forward to discussing this more. Now, these are obviously improper redactions.
And let me stop for a minute.
I'm talking.
If they're not privileged,
quiet.
Don't yell at me. If they're not
Mr. Chairman, would you stop the clock? This is on your time. It's not on Mr.
If they're
Goldman.
not
Even though
privileged,
you used your improper redactions,
you'll like my answer.
to
if we
continue
review
to
them and they're not
protect
privileged,
Time belongs to the
we will
member.
be happy to release them.
We'll
after
stop the
review.
clock. We'll stop the clock. Time belongs to the member. Go ahead.
even though you used improper redactions to protect Donald Trump and other predators associated with Jeffrey Epstein, you did the exact opposite thing with the survivors and victims of this scheme. So their identification information was really the only thing required to be redacted, and it was not. And it's clear this was not a mistake. This was not by accident. This was not because you only had 30 days when you really used 75, and that doesn't even include all the hours last March that you were redacting it. But I'll tell you why it's clear it wasn't a mistake. There is an email entitled Epstein Victim List. There are 32 names. 1 is redacted. 31 are not. So someone looked at it and decided to redact something. And I will tell you that that is clearly intentional to intimidate these survivors and victims. Now, in an interview last week...
How will you tell me that's intentional?
In an interview last week, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche...
You can't go off script.
...said that any victim that wants to speak with the department has done so, hopefully. Well, thanks to the incredibly brave people sitting here behind you, we can actually ask them if that's true. Now, would the survivors and victims who are here please stand up one more time? Just by show of hands, how many of you or your loved ones actually have met with the Department of Justice and provided testimony and evidence? None. And of those of you who have not met, which is everyone, how many of you have reached out either individually or through a lawyer or representative to offer to provide testimony and evidence? All of them. And of those of you, all of you, who have reached out, how many of you were denied or ignored by the Department of Justice? All of them. And despite the shameful and despicable efforts by Ms. Bondi and her department to intimidate you, how many of you are still willing to speak to the Department of Justice? All of them. Well, Ms. Bondi, it looks like you have some more witnesses to talk to.
Gentleman's time has expired.
And I yield back.
We will go to the good gentleman from North Carolina, Congressman Knott.
Thank
May
you.
I have a moment, Congressman?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Here we go. Here's the photograph. This is why he wanted to repeat everything that had been said previously on Epstein. This is his state, New York. You probably don't even know who this is. Wahid Mohammed from Afghanistan.
Yes, because I'm no longer a prosecutor.
Convicted of assault. Wow, he represents New York. Wow, yet he doesn't care about the illegal aliens convicted of crimes. Assault and homicide. No longer a prosecutor, so he doesn't care about his constituents. Here we go. Arson, El Salvador, Miguel Palacios. Fermin Flores Ramales, Mexico, rape.
Let's talk about the 70% of immigrants who are detained without a criminal conviction or arrest.
Stop the clock. Stop the clock. Time belongs to Congressman Knott.
Right from the start, one lawmaker presses hard on why so many Epstein-related documents are still heavily redacted. And look, this is where I'm going to be very clear. Transparency matters. If there are millions of documents and half of them are still hidden, people have a right to ask questions. That's not controversial. That's common sense. But here's where things start to shift. Instead of focusing strictly on justice for victims or the broader network surrounding Epstein, the hearing quickly turns into what looks like a targeted political attack, especially when references to Donald Trump are brought into the conversation. Now ask yourself this. If the goal is truth, why does it always seem to circle back to the same political figures? Why does it feel like certain narratives are pushed harder than others? Because what we're seeing here isn't just oversight, it's selective focus. And then there's the issue of redactions. One side argues that key documents are being hidden improperly. The other side claims privilege and legal protection. But here's the real question no one wants to answer. If these documents are so important, why has it taken this long to even have this conversation? This isn't a new issue. This is years in the making. And yet, suddenly, it's being treated like an urgent political weapon. But the most disturbing part of this hearing isn't even the political back and forth. It's what came out about the victims. According to what was presented, multiple victims and survivors reportedly reached out to the Department of Justice offering testimony and evidence, and were ignored. Let that sink in. Ignored. Every single one. Now, if that's true, that's not just a failure. That's a disgrace. Because no matter where you stand politically, this should never happen. Victims of crimes like this deserve to be heard. They deserve justice. They deserve a system that works for them, not one that sidelines them while politicians argue on camera. And this is where I think a lot of Americans are waking up. It's not just about left versus right anymore. It's about whether the institutions we're told to trust are actually doing their job, or whether they've become tools for political agendas. You even saw moments in this hearing where things completely broke down into chaos. Interruptions, accusations, people talking over each other. That's not accountability. That's dysfunction. And then, almost out of nowhere, the conversation pivots to unrelated issues like immigration and crime, with examples thrown in to shift the focus entirely. And that tells you everything you need to know. Because when a hearing about one of the most serious criminal networks in modern history turns into a scattershot political argument, it means the system isn't focused, it's fragmented. And when it's fragmented, truth gets lost. Here's my take. As someone who believes in accountability, law and order, and protecting the innocent, I don't care which side gets exposed. If there are names, release them. If there are crimes, prosecute them. If there are victims, listen to them. But what I do care about is consistency. Because right now, it feels like justice depends on who you are, what side you're on, and how useful your story is politically. And that's dangerous. Because once people lose trust in the system, you don't just lose credibility, you lose the foundation that holds everything together. So yes, this hearing raised questions, but it also revealed something bigger. It revealed a system that looks more interested in controlling damage than delivering truth. And that's something every American, left, right, or center, should be paying attention to. If you made it this far, drop a comment and tell me what you think. Do you believe these hearings are about truth, or are they just political theater? And don't forget, subscribe, and stay locked into Freedom Forge, because we're going to keep breaking this stuff down the way others won't. Stay sharp.